You are listening to the Tricorder Transmissions, episode 68. And now, here are Craig and Jeff.
No, it's not a journey to Babel. This week on the Tricorder Transmissions, we are taking a journey to Troyius on the Tricorder Transmissions episode number 68, Elaan Of Troyius. We are your hosts, Craig.
And Jeff.
And that's that.
All right. On to the episode.
I don't know. I figured we'll talk about it in the commentary, but a lot of people, I think one of their biggest complaints about this episode is how familiar it is to Journey to Babel.
Yeah, it's another one of those diplomatic missions to Alderaan. You know, it's. I think I made a Star Wars reference last time when we talked about Journey to Babel. Actually, that was all the way back in season 2. But I actually have to tell you and our listening audience, nobody has called me out on it yet, and I realized it while I was watching Elaan Of Troyius back to prepare to talk with you about it. And I made a grievous error in our Klingon episode.
Oh.
In regards to this episode.
Really?
Yeah. We were talking about various villains, and I mentioned we were talking about Andorians, and I made a reference to an Andorian being in Elaan Of Troyius. And I mistakenly forgot that he's not Andorian.
Right.
In fact, he's Troyan. So I don't know why. I mean, obviously, you look at him, you may think he was an Andorian minus the antennae, but I will put myself out there before somebody else calls me out on it, and I'm surprised nobody has. He was not actually Andorian.
Yeah, I have to be honest. I hadn't watched this episode for quite some time when we had sat down to do that Klingon discussion. So, I didn't watch it till a couple days before this recording for this commentary.
And nobody in the Klingon discussion actually called me out on it either. So Chris didn't call me out, and Emmett didn't call me out.
Well, I think they were being probably good guests.
Come on. All right. Well, at any rate, I was wrong.
It's nice of you to own up to that. That's
of course.
That's very noble.
Yeah, I'm not gonna defend myself. Just gonna I own up to my mistakes. But speaking of mistakes, we've got news to talk about.
Okay, I'm curious.
Segue. No, this is not a mistake. I'm just kidding. I was looking for a segue, and that was a very inelegant one to talk about.
Well, I thought we were going to talk about Star Trek 3.
Well, that could be a mistake. Actually skipping that news.
Yes.
Because it's kind of nonsense. Rumors about new characters, but nothing too specific. But anyway, remember a few episodes ago I mentioned this head scratcher of a new DVD set called the Kirk's Boldest Missions.
Yeah, you were curious who the market was for that.
Yeah,
I remember.
Still don't know, but I guess anybody who does not own Star Trek DVDs or Blu-rays and happens to be a Captain Kirk fan, a little more information has come to light on this set, and that is the full list of episodes that are included.
All right, cool.
In Kirk's Boldest Mission. So whoever put this box set together, it's 2-disc set. So whoever put this set together, this was their idea of what Kirk's Boldest Missions were. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Corbomite Maneuver, Doomsday Machine, City on the Edge of Forever, Conscience of the King, Balance of Terror, Space Seed, Mirror Mirror, and Return to Tomorrow.
I don't know. I mean, seems like a random assortment of really good episodes, but
well,
I don't know about Boldest Missions.
Yeah, I don't know if Conscience of the King qualifies as a bold mission.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even know if like Mirror Mirror does either. I mean, that wasn't really a mission it was more of a getting out of a jam.
I think all of these actually qualify as getting out of jams, don't they? I don't think any of them were official missions. Actually, no, Balance of Terror, weren't they investigating the destructions of the outposts? That was kind of a mission, I guess.
Right.
Space Seed wasn't. Mirror Mirror wasn't. Return to Tomorrow was like an oops, we're in the past kind of thing.
Yeah.
But anyway, one good thing about this is the price is $16.99 suggested retail.
See, yeah, it's a good opportunity for a casual fan to get some really great episodes and not commit to buying, pricey, season sets. I mean, we're not that market, and I don't think anybody listening to this show is that market, but I think there's people out there that, they'll throw that on their shelf, and they might also have, the best of both worlds, next generation, DVD they put out on their shelves and whatever else. I mean,
well, there are some special features here that may put you in the market.
Oh, let's hear about
them. There are a couple of special features. One is entitled "What Makes a Good Captain." Not sure the value of that one, but this one sounds interesting. The importance of the captain's log.
Okay,
that's interesting. And here's the coup de grace. The Captain Kirk's legacy and an introduction by Shatner and Joan Collins.
Wow. Okay. I wonder when that was recorded.
I don't know. Doesn't say. Runtime for the set is 6 hours and 43 minutes.
Okay.
All right. So that is it. So that comes out sometime next month, and that means February, so sometime in March.
All right.
2015 for any of you listening years in the future. So if you're listening to this sometime in 2016 and beyond, this will have already been out. So looks like there's a new Shatner Priceline commercial.
Yeah, everybody's making a big deal about that. I didn't realize that he had really gone away. Because he was doing those commercials with his daughter or his TV daughter.
Yeah, the girl from Big Bang
Theory. Yeah.
Kaylee Cuoco Sweeting or whatever her name is now. Yeah, but I think the ones that they'd been running they were made a while ago. I don't think they're new. So these are newer, kind of the same thing. The Priceline branding and the funny sort of Shatner goofy negotiator thing, the Priceline negotiator stuff. So good for him. It's always good to see more Shatner on TV.
Oh, totally. Yeah, I totally agree. I was going to say the same thing in terms of it being a good thing.
Yeah. So that about wraps it up for Trek news. But we do have some good Tricorder Transmissions news that I wanted to throw out there to everybody in listener land and to you, Craig. And the initial download numbers for our new What Are Little Songs Made Of series with the 5-year mission guys have come back pretty good. We've got a little bit of success there. We got over 120 downloads in the first few days for episode number 1. So episode number 2 is also out. That came out this past Wednesday, and that was The Man Trap, the second track on the Year 1 album. The first episode was The Cage, which was the first track on the Year 1 album. So both tracks feature all 5 guys from 5-year mission talking about the songs in depth, and we'll have another episode out the Wednesday following this episode. So thank you to everyone who's downloaded it. If any of you are regular listeners to our regular commentaries, thank you for listening to our new little series. We appreciate that, and I assume a lot of the downloads came from the 5-year mission fans because we were published all over their different Facebook pages and the 5-year mission page and all of that stuff. So
yeah, we got some really nice comments from some folks that found us through that new series and had some really nice words about the show and how great it was that we were giving the guys a platform to go behind the scenes of their process.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with the way these first few episodes have turned out. It was a lot of fun to record these, and I look forward to putting them out every week now. I go back and I listen to them and edit them up and put them out, and it just it reminds me how great their music is and how nice it is to be friends with those guys.
Oh, totally, yeah.
All right. Well, are you ready to move into the commentary on Elaan of Troyius?
Yes, sir.
So Elaan of Troyius aired on December 20th, 1968. So we're rounding out 1968 here, getting close to the end of that year. And the remaster was March 29th, 2008.
And from TV Guide, December 14th, 1968, we get Kirk must tame a shrew when he undertakes a stormy mission of peace, taking the high priestess of a warrior people to marry her enemy's ruler.
All right. So we will start our scene-specific commentary. Cue up your episodes. We're going to press play in 3, 2, 1.
So one thing that I discovered while reading the section in These Are the Voyages by Mark Cushman on this episode was that Robert Kennedy was assassinated during the filming of this episode.
Wow.
And how its effect, an effect it had on the cast, and especially guest star France Nguyen. And if you watch her performance, you might see how that news, sort of helped her performance, as weird as that sounds. And her and her husband, Robert Culp, were very, very big supporters of Robert Kennedy. And the news apparently really, really devastated her to the point where she was in the makeup chair when she found out and needed several minutes, almost to the point where they weren't sure how long she was going to need, but they gave her all the time that she did need.
Yeah, that's a tragic day, man.
Yeah, and it's not the
Dark
first
day in
time that we've had something like that happen on the set of Star Trek. So,
but usually you don't think of things like that having an effect on the production of a TV show. It's a different way of looking at things to think how the events in the real world affect these actors and the way they're playing their parts or the way they conduct themselves, their general mood on set. And
yeah,
it must be difficult to maintain character when you have a personal involvement in something that goes on, like an assassination like that, or I can imagine how difficult it was for her.
Yeah. And then we've also even seen like the case of The Devil in the Dark, where Shatner was dealing with the death of his father.
Exactly. Yeah. So, another diplomatic mission. And, here are the placemat outfits, by the way. Those guys' outfits were made of placemats.
I see it on the shoulder pads. It's hilarious.
Yeah, and I never thought of it until I read that. I had never thought about it. I always thought they were kind of very 60s looking, almost, psychedelic in a way. But when I read that they were placemats, that totally made sense to me.
It's really funny.
Got it.
Yeah. For some reason, and I know there's no connection, but those outfits remind me of Battlestar Galactica.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know why. Like I said, there's no connection there, but it just seems like it to me.
Yeah, I can see that. But so diplomatic mission, right? Another diplomatic mission. And once again, I'm going to point this out, and I've said this a bazillion times in the past. And how does this fit into the 5-year mission to explore strange new worlds? I don't get it. It's they seem to do more of this kind of stuff than actual exploring sometimes.
Yeah.
But I love how everybody kneeled for Elaan to beam on prior to her beaming, except the Enterprise crew, and they only knelt down afterwards.
Yeah.
For some reason. So one thing that we also learned prior to the Stinger is that the Federation and the Klingons have both laid claim to this area of space, but we do not have an explanation as to why that is at this point.
Right.
Although I have a feeling we'll learn what that is later in the episode, and it will be a very unsurprising reveal. So, also, I think what Spock had said, he had read a report about the Elazian people being very unpleasant, and McCoy chimes in saying that he read the same report, and the women have some strange power over men. So we've got that little plant there to think about going forward in this episode. And once again, there was Petrie, and you can see by looking at Petrie how I would have misremembered him as an Andorian, right?
Totally.
Yeah, I mean, he could have the little antenna just combed underneath his hair. Mm-hmm. He looks. Maybe I would have to actually look at him side by side with an Andorian. I think the the color of the skin is just slightly different. Maybe he's a little more greenish than an Andorian. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah.
And,
yeah, it almost seems like more aqua.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. And did you find that stinger a little odd? Like, it didn't seem to have much of an impact.
No, it almost felt like half a stinger.
Yeah, like usually the stingers like to set you up and kind of punch you in the gut and then leave you to think about it during the opening credits and opening commercial break. But that was like, they're all in the transporter room. We got a little setup with maybe we'll see some Klingons, and then, she beams on and you see her. She kind of looks Egyptian, and I guess that was supposed to be a shocker enough.
Yeah, I think it was a message that, hey, we're in the 10 p.m. time slot. Folks, there's going to be some eye candy this episode.
Is this a competitor for Barbara Luna, Craig?
No, Barbara Luna will always hold the high spot in my heart. But I don't know. France definitely charts, and she has some really, really great outfits this episode. Some really tremendous costume design. And another fact I learned in Mark Cushman's book was coming from the culture that she came from. She didn't find any of those costumes bashful by any measure. So she didn't really take any, have any reservations about wearing whatever they presented her with.
Yeah, I think her default costume is the only one that I think would qualify as risque.
Yeah.
I think the other ones are actually a lot more subdued because she's got some full-length dresses that she wears later on, and we'll point them out as we go through.
Yeah, I guess they beamed her luggage on separately.
I would imagine so. There must have been like a cargo beam up after everybody walked off. Also, speaking of her costumes, I think she ranks number 3 as the most costume changes in one episode in the series, behind Lenore Caridian from Conscience of the King and Ricardo Montalban from Space Siege.
Okay, yeah, that seems about right.
Yeah, and I don't know if you think this, but when you look at Petrie's hair, does it look like someone kind of drizzled some caramel sauce on top of his head? It's like a caramel swirl. He's got like a vanilla ice cream soft serve head and like some caramel swirl. For some reason, it just kind of stands out to me.
That's funny. Petrie, let's talk about him real quick.
Sure.
Since it's actor Jay Robinson, and although we weren't born on the same year, we share a birthday. He was born on April 14th, 1930. And he just died 2 years ago, back in September of 2013.
All right.
And he did a lot of movie work in the 50s, and then around this time, he did shows like Days of Our Lives, the soap opera, The Wild Wild West, Planet of the Apes, and Sid and Marty Krofft's The Krofft Super Show, which I don't remember.
I don't recall. I recall a lot of Sid and Marty Krofft, but not that one.
Yeah, so maybe some of our listeners might remember the Krofft Super Show.
I'm sure they do. I was a Space Coaster fan myself.
Yeah, and they were Land of the Lost too, weren't they?
Yep.
Yeah.
And a couple of other HR Puffin stuff, I think, right?
Yeah.
And a bunch of other stuff. But here's a question that probably my biggest question about this entire episode.
Mm-hmm.
And we're deep into the 3rd season at this point. We've seen Kirk and crew on 67 missions prior to this.
Okay.
67. Now, Kirk and his crew are arguably the best and most experienced starship crew in the fleet.
Right.
Isn't this a huge waste of time for them to be carting around this chick to get married? I mean, wouldn't you think they have other ships that could handle that kind of a thing? I mean, it just seems like such a misuse of resources to me.
Yeah, it might be one of those cases where they were the closest ship, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Or you could also argue that they knew the difficulties they were going to face with such a savage race, and it would take somebody like Captain Kirk to really
Yeah, or maybe Kirk is the most well versed with My Fair Lady. And I figure, you know what, Kirk, you've seen that movie 10,000 times. Why don't you go tame this chick? You know how to mold her into a respectful young lady.
Yeah, I really, really like this scene. So Uhura had given up her quarters to provide space for the Dolmen. And she doesn't like her quarters. And I really like the way right out of the gate that, Kirk, deals with her.
Yeah, this is actually a good chance for Shatner to kind of reprise his Charlie X role in a way, in that stern, almost fatherly way.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to put up with your crap. Listen, I'm the best starship captain in the fleet. I eat difficult people like you for breakfast.
And I love how he told her if she was running out of things to break, he could bring more.
Yeah, that was great. He'll furnish her whole room with breakable items. But another great thing about that scene we just watched, and I think this to me was the standout portion, was poor Petrie is getting abused, and he is doing his damnedest to stay kind and respectful. And you see, as she sends him out of the room, you see this quiver of his lips on his face as he's just holding back this torrent of anger and resentment. And that non-physical cue really stood out to me in that scene. I said, wow, that was really, I mean, he could have just kind of said what he needed to say and turned around and walked out, and that probably would have been the end of it. But he threw that extra bit in there, that extra non-physical cue, and just to really emphasize how angry he was.
Yes.
So they really want to sell the animosity between the Elans and the Troyans, right? They want to really sell that, and I think that actually helped me buy into it.
Mm-hmm.
So, excellent work. And also, speaking of wastes of resources,
yes,
Petrie has insisted that they travel all the way to Troyus on impulse power.
Okay.
And Scotty remarks that it's going to take a really long time. So now, not only are we utilizing Kirk, Spock, and crew for this kind of silly mission, but you're utilizing them for a really long time.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like it's like Superman holding a 2-hour press conference. What could he have done in 2 hours? Right? Or he's standing there flapping his gums. He could have been out saving people. What's going wrong in the universe that Kirk could have fixed during this time?
And here actually is a little engineering explanation of running on impulse versus warp speed.
Yeah, and this is where Elaan makes a really, really big faux pas in my book.
Okay.
She refers to people who work in engineering as menials.
Yes.
And Scotty immediately takes offense. I feel that means Scotty's a freaking genius. He's gotten them out of so many jams, and now he's got this chick telling him he's a menial. When it obviously takes a lot of engineering intelligence and to work in that area of the ship. So poor Scotty gets insulted. Pretty much everybody but Spock, I think, gets insulted.
Yeah, I don't think Spock really sets himself up for it at any point.
No.
There's not a whole lot of interaction.
Yeah. But and not only that, but another question for you. I mean, I guess Kirk gave her a pass, but she did throw stuff at Kirk in the prior scene. And maybe that was his cue to get stern, but she takes a lot of liberties and eventually throws a knife at him, for God's sake. Wouldn't that be enough to just say throw her ass in the brig? I mean, come on, you just made an attempt on the captain's life. I mean, I don't know how much Kirk would put up with. I mean, I think he goes kind of over and above.
Yeah, but I think it's the fact that it's a woman, and he threatens her with a spanking. I think he kind of enjoys it.
Maybe, yeah, it's true.
Yeah, I think he enjoys the challenge.
Yeah, and here, this is the redeeming part of this episode for me, is that you get this conflict with the Klingons.
Yeah, and it's resolved in such a different way.
Yeah, Yeah, it is. And this is really, I love the fact that we see so much of the Klingon ship in this episode. They were cloaked, first off. And now we've got a tactical situation. So that, to me, makes this episode a little more interesting.
Right.
And Elaan almost becomes a side thing at this point. And I wish there was a little. This is your great remastered shots, by the way, of the Klingon ship here.
Mm-hmm.
I really like the camera movement, and we're seeing so much more of the ship than we would have seen in the regular special effects in the old version.
Yeah.
So they kind of take some liberties there. And, you know, there's another unexplained costume choice. Why are the red shirt security guys wearing those black belts with the phasers on them in this episode?
Yeah.
That's not a common thing.
No.
You know, and uh-oh. And I think here's another cue that I think that under normal circumstances, after having stabbed an ambassador from another planet, that would definitely get you locked up in the brig.
Yeah, and I guess she's lucky that he wasn't dead.
Yeah, because well, obviously she's dangerous. She's hostile at this point.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this poor guy, gets stabbed in the back. Luckily, he didn't puncture a lung or anything, for God's sake. I mean, she was a little high with the stab, but you know, I think that would be at least be a confined to quarters after that, you know, with guards posted outside. You know, wouldn't you think?
Yeah.
But and also disarm her guards who are carrying nuclear hand phasers. I think that would be a smart move. But at any rate,
yeah.
So poor Petrie is now in sick bay.
Yeah, you know who he reminds me of? This actor, Petrie.
Mr. Furley?
No, I'm drawing a blank on his name. Hans Gruber and Snape.
Oh! Why is this escaping?
Alan Rickman.
Alan Rickman.
Yeah, and I get like if they were going to remake this episode today for some reason,
Alan Rickman vibe.
It would be Alan Rickman.
And you know, here's by the way, Nurse Chapel just came in. And I think her sole purpose in this entire episode was just to get the whole, the tears of a woman from Ilas will infect a man and enslave his heart to her. So that was like the whole reason why she was even there in the first place, was just to facilitate the telling of that story.
And one of the worst Nurse Chapel performances I can recall.
Yeah, it seemed very bizarre that she would come in and just immediately launch into that line of questioning. You know, it seemed very strange. Green chicken?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah. So I guess now we're seeing some savagery here.
Yeah.
You know, interesting though. She's portraying herself as very savagely with the way she's eating and very uncouth, but it's very contrary to the way that she's made up. Like her makeup is, very detailed and looks like it's very painstaking. And you wouldn't think someone who's, that uncouth would be that well made up.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's a good point.
Yeah, and now it falls on Kirk to do Petrie's job and try to civilize her. Speaks great English, though, for an alien.
And the actress herself didn't really speak very good English. In fact, a lot of her early roles were done phonetically.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
And in fact, her and Shatner worked together in 1959 on Broadway in the show The World of Susie Wong.
Oh, that's right. I remember that now, because Shatner talked about that in the one-man show we saw.
Yeah, Shatner's World. Yeah,
that was great. That was great. So Shatner is really, or Kirk rather, is really embracing the new teacher role, and he's gonna go right for the table manners.
Yeah, showing her how to use a plate.
Yeah,
and a knife.
101.
Yeah, he shows her a knife, but he doesn't give her a fork.
Interesting observation. Didn't notice that. I'm surprised she didn't take the knife right out of her shirt sleeve and make her use that one.
Yeah.
This is great. Now, for me, see, this is where I would fail as Captain Kirk. If she goes right for it and says, "Return me to my planet," I would have been like, "Okay, turn the ship around. We're going back."
Yeah.
You've already almost killed an ambassador. You've thrown stuff at me. You know, your guards are kind of out of control.
Yeah.
I think it's time to call this quits. Let the Klingons have the system. They can have it. Done.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
No, but instead he pours her out of a glass instead of letting her drink out of it, and he's still trying to be civil.
Of course. He does a great job at this, though. This is a big slap there, and he slaps her back. That was a little throwback to McCoy.
Yeah.
Right back from when he slaps the what was her name? Was that Lee Merriweather?
It might have been. Or no,
it was
Friday's Child.
Yeah, what was her? What was
it was the other Catwoman.
Yeah, it was the other Catwoman.
Julie Newmar.
Julie Newmar. Yep, there you go. So now she just threw a knife at Kirk. By the way, she made an attempt on the captain's life. I think that's where you got to pull the plug. That's where you got to pull the plug, man. I had to take her right up on that offer to go back to Troyes. In fact, you know what? I would have thrown her. I'd have beamed her right on the Klingon ship.
Yeah,
like, here you go.
I work under the assumption that Kirk knew that was a warning shot, and that possibly she was, more bark than she was bite.
I'm going to make a counterpoint for you here, Craig.
All right.
You know what these placemat outfits make me think of?
What's that?
Buck Rogers.
Okay. Yeah.
Buck Rogers. I'm thinking if that guy had a zipper on the front and he unzipped the front of his shirt, there'd be a giant hair sweater underneath it. That's what I'm thinking. Just like Gil Gerard, right?
Mm-hmm.
And here's a dilithium crystal.
Yeah, look at that.
These guys are from a planet that is in a nuclear age, as was stated earlier. How the heck does he know how to operate this equipment?
Well, they got the tour.
That wasn't enough. Come on, man.
Maybe they got the, like everybody else does, they got the Enterprise welcome pack that gives you all the detailed information you need.
Yeah, they're all speed readers like Khan. Ah, and that poor red shirt, man. Got his neck snapped. Could you imagine?
Yeah.
Poor guy. Now, that come on. This is red flag after red flag after red flag. You know what I mean? And they're going to know the guys, they know the guy died, right? They're going to find out the guy died, and they're going to find out that Elaan's dude killed him. That has to be it.
Yeah.
That's got to be it. Game over.
Yeah.
Game over. I mean, now a crew member is actually dead. I think they give him way too many passes. Way too many passes.
Look at how big these guys are.
Yeah, they're humongous. I wonder how tall those guys really were.
But I mean, even if they're wearing lifts of some kind, I mean, just look at how much bigger overall they look than Shatner. It almost looks like a forced perspective or something.
That's true. Yeah, it does, but it couldn't be from the angle.
Yeah, I mean, those are just some big dudes.
Yeah, well, Spock took him down with that phaser, man.
Yeah.
I love that Spock was just there watching it, just waiting.
Yeah.
He's like, just give me any reason to stun you.
Yeah, and this is where we get a great line from Kirk, isn't it? Is this where he says,
yeah, the Vulcan.
Yeah, the Vulcan women are the only women in this galaxy that are logical.
Yeah, it was I think it was the line was Spock, you live on a planet where all the women are logical, and that's the only planet that can make that claim.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And this is really where we come to the turning point with the two of them here.
Yeah, but this I had thought the same thing, but it's a ruse. It's a ruse. She totally plays him.
I think so, yeah, but I mean, this is definitely an important moment in terms of their interaction, because it's like Kirk saying, well, the gloves are off at this point, and realizing that he might have to get a little bit more aggressive in the way he's handling things.
Yeah, but
and I do think
it's a stall tactic, dude, because she knows the other dude is disabling the ship, man. They're in cahoots with the Klingons, man. And now she's waiting for the perfect moment to take control of Kirk with the tears, and here it comes. I don't know how to make people like me. She's gonna pull that nonsense, and she knows that she can just kind of throw little tears, make Kirk feel bad for her because Kirk is, he's a little emo in that way. he'll fall for the babes, little tear, and wouldn't you think that this would be something that Petrie should have warned him about?
I kind of feel like there was a scene where Kirk was made aware of this, even if he was, not 100% present in the scene.
Well, it was dismissed as a wives' tale kind of thing. Like, oh yeah, it's said that this is possible. But Petrie knows, because you'll find out a little bit later that he knows all about it, and that they've been looking for a cure for it for thousands of years and haven't found one, and blah 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 blah. So that should have been something that was on the dossier when Kirk got this mission. It's like, listen, man, the women have this power. If you touch their tears on your bare skin, you're done.
But do you think that moment would
wear gloves?
Do you think with that awareness it would have changed the way Kirk reacted in this scene?
He wouldn't have touched her face.
You think?
Hell yeah.
I don't know. That seemed like a moment where it's very easy to get lost in the emotion of the moment.
Nah, I'm going to disagree with you. Well, you can go with that, but I'm going to disagree with you. I think if that was a big, bold red text, flashing warning on the orders from Starfleet, it said, do not touch her face, do not get the tears on you, because you would think that would be a real easy way for a woman of that race to take over a starship.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you had a female captain, right? Then she's checkmated. But you got to think that that you just beam her up, she starts to cry, runs over and rubs her face on his face, and that's it, done. Easy peasy, man.
Yeah.
So now we see another Kirk sitting on a bed with a woman moment.
Yeah, you think that's post coitus?
Nope. I'm gonna stick in my. There's only one confirmed Kirk sexual encounter in
where he's booting back up.
No, that's not confirmed. The only confirmed
the
is
impregnation.
Miramani. Yep,
yeah.
That's it. He got a girl pregnant. That's it. That's the only time you can definitely say without a shadow of a doubt. Kirk may have had a rock in his shoe when he was putting the boot back on.
Yeah. How do you get a rock in your shoe?
His sock might have got twisted. That's happened to you. Happened to me. Happened to everybody. Your sock gets twisted inside the boot. You can't walk because it's got like a little lump underneath your foot. All right. Well, they caught the guy. They caught him, and he's messed with the equipment, and the poor red shirt guy is dead. Yeah. That should be end of episode. Period. End of story. Pack your crap. You're off the ship. Put him in the Galileo and ship him back to Elos, right?
God, how long would that take?
Who cares? Who cares?
You really don't have patience for these people, man.
No, man. They've been given too many passes. Too many passes. You got the guards manhandling Kirk, almost ready to shoot him outside the quarters. I mean, come on. Then you got the poor inept security guard there who got his phaser stolen. So the guy vaporized himself. Done.
Yeah, that's the, I guess, the futuristic version of a cyanide pill.
Yeah. Find the phaser and shoot yourself with it. Oh, man. I'll tell you. So you did see a Klingon communicator there in that scene, though.
Oh, right, yeah.
That was kind of nice. It's got a flip top just like the Federation ones. So pretty neat there. Costume change. Change for Elaan. So no wig change, though.
No.
Just costume change. But what's really neat about this, though, and this is kind of a cool Captain Kirk superpower, is that even though he's been infected with this chemical agent from her tears, his sense of duty can still override it.
Yeah, and I think that's really driven home at the end of the episode.
Yeah, when we're getting it here too, which is great because she's making the play and she knows that she's got this power, but I wonder if that shocks her.
You don't think that also plays into... So you're of the opinion that her entire arc with Kirk this episode is all a ploy?
You know, I'm going to go with more than likely.
Okay.
I'm going to go with more than likely because she's got an agenda.
Yeah. See, my read on the relationship, for lack of a better word, is that it started out, with, nefarious motives, if you will, but along the way, Elaan found herself, developing some kind of feelings for Kirk.
I could buy into that if it wasn't for that line in Engineering where she said specifically that she wasn't interested in the propulsion of the ship, but how it was used in combat.
Mm-hmm.
It seems to me that this entire thing, all of them, her and her guards, are all there to provoke or to create a situation in which they fight with the Klingons. For whatever reason, it's really not well explained, but it seems like maybe the Elos people want to see which of the two competing alien races who want control of the system and want their planet to be part of their collective, for lack of a better word. They want to see which one's more powerful, right?
Yeah.
So they want to provoke some sort of conflict between the two to prove it out, right? And even at the end of the episode, when we get there, we'll see how disappointed she seems that she wasn't able to make that happen.
Okay.
So that kind of makes me think that, it's not a real emotional thing.
Mm-hmm. You think the I understand. I mean, there is definitely an emotional reaction from her at the end. You're seeing it more as failure, as opposed as to losing something.
Yes, exactly. And I love that Kirk gets caught in the act.
Yeah.
By Spock and McCoy, but this is a bonus for me for this episode is that McCoy immediately knows what's causing Kirk to act this way, which is great. They're not gonna dork around for 20 minutes trying to figure it out. McCoy's gonna say, "Hey, listen, dude, I already know it's this. It's their tears. He asks, did you get tears on you? Did she cry on you?"
Yeah.
And Kirk's like, "Oh yeah, she did." Like, maybe you should have said something earlier, Bones. Maybe you should have said something earlier. But see, at least Kirk can still perform his duty, which is great.
Yeah.
He's not completely powerless.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he struggles a little bit. So great Klingon battle parts here. I love this. This is great. And the only sad part about the Klingons in this episode is that we don't have a reappearance of an already established Klingon commander.
Right.
You've got a few to choose from, but you just get some scrub.
Mm-hmm. I think that's good though.
Yeah.
Because it establishes that they have a pretty good, distribution of ships out there.
Yeah, I guess so.
I mean, now, if this is another one of those cases where if they were making this show today, it would have been a recurring Klingon.
True. I agree. So, continuity question for you.
All right.
Mr. Craig Cohen. Now, wouldn't you think, from what we already know of Spock and his mental abilities via the mind meld, that Spock could mind meld with Kirk and help to create some sort of mental barrier against her control or influence?
I think that might have been an option if this episode had ended and Kirk was completely useless. But I don't think there's any... Spock's definitely not showing any kind of concern or distress. Spock would have been happy to take command of that ship if he thought he had a reason to.
True.
So I definitely think that would have been an option if post-episode, things are wrapped up and then Kirk's just like, oh man, I'm in the biggest love funk ever.
Yeah, I guess that maybe he would have had to step in and help. But Spock is unfortunately, I think, a little downplayed in this episode.
Oh, he's totally downplayed in this episode, almost to the point where I couldn't remember if he had any scenes with Dolman or not.
Yeah, he really doesn't.
Yeah.
He really doesn't. This is really a very Kirk-centric episode. McCoy has a little bit, but even McCoy's a little downplayed. This is a very, very Shatner-centered episode.
Yeah, and there was actually a deleted scene that involved Spock. Which
really?
I'm not sure it would have given him much more play in the episode, but it was a scene that was cut because they were running long. They shot an extra day, I believe. But it was a sequence where Spock is playing music for the crew. He's playing his lyre? That whatever that stringed Vulcan instrument is.
Yeah, I forget the name of it.
Yeah, and he's playing music over the I guess the Enterprise's sound system to I guess chill everybody out. And it was supposed to be a set, and I'm trying to go through my notes here and find where I wrote it, but of course I can't now. But it was a new section of the Enterprise.
Oh, the Arboretum or the Atrium?
Yeah.
Area? Yeah.
I just can't remember. I can't.
It was in And the Children Shall Lead, I believe.
Okay.
We saw it.
Yeah. If I do find that note, I will go back to it. But yeah, so that might have given Spock a little bit more play in this episode, or made it at least feel like he had more of a presence. But it's interesting, learning and reading about deleted sequences, because you look at these episodes and you figure that they all had to be 50 minutes, and that was all really meticulously figured out before they shot. And I do know, or we do know, that this episode was written and directed by John Meredith Lucas. So I almost wonder if some of that came into play, where he overestimated how long scenes were going to play as opposed to how they were written.
Perhaps.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm not even sure how many deleted sequences actually exist over the entire run of the series.
Not many so far that I can recall.
Yeah, so very interesting to hear that there's stuff on the cutting room floor that we've, I don't think's ever been commercially released. It might be sitting out there on a bootleg or tape trading circuit or whatever, but I'm surprised it didn't pop up on these Blu-rays. Although maybe it was gone.
It probably was.
This was a time where when you cut something, you cut it, you dropped it on the floor, and that was it.
And
it was swept up.
And gone. But interesting, you mentioned this episode was written and directed by the same person. This is the only episode of Star Trek: The Original Series that can make that claim.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. It's a pretty cool. It's a pretty cool stat.
Yeah. So it's a series first and last.
And John Meredith Lucas had also written and directed for the series, which is also kind of not something that a lot of people had done.
True.
He wrote The Changeling, Patterns of Force, directed The Ultimate Computer, directed The Enterprise Incident, and we're next going to see him as a writer for That Which Survives.
So he's got some really good cred there in writing and directing for this series. Some really great episodes on both sides.
Yeah, and he'd come on this episode after no longer working in that producer category, capacity that he worked in for a while.
Yeah,
he came on sort of as a hired gun.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, there's, I know we've sort of talked about it a lot, but if you're at all interested in the details and the minutia behind the making of this series, These Are the Voyages books by Mark Cushman are really essential reading.
Yeah, we harp on these books a lot, and I can't say enough good stuff about them. In fact, I gave some, as a little aside, I gave some out as Christmas gifts, and I got some fantastic feedback from the people that I gave them to. They were blown away. Their expectations were exceeded.
Yeah, it really is. It is really a great thing to watch an episode and then, go to that section of the book and read, the production history from initial script, the initial story idea, which in this case derived from Gene Roddenberry himself, and it was originally called Elaan Of Troyius, all the way through to the ratings that it did. And then you can go back and watch the episode again and get an even greater sort of appreciation of what went into making the episode.
Yeah. Well, if that's also your bag and you're a 60s sci-fi fan, you'll probably be happy to know that Mark Cushman is doing These Are the Voyages treatment to Lost in Space.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I just saw that announcement. So he will be doing, I think the first book is due out sometime later this year.
I wonder if there's as many memos.
I wouldn't doubt that there would be.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like Roddenberry and Kuhn and Justman all really held on to their memos as well, which is really what gave a lot of material for These Are the Voyages. So that's very cool. I'm sure fans of Lost in Space are very excited.
Yep, wouldn't doubt it. So,
but I hope that doesn't hold up Mark's work on his fourth These Are the Voyages book that he's talked about.
Yeah, well, I'm sure he's got a running order that he's looking at for all this stuff. So very cool space combat here, by the way.
Yeah, we had a great underneath shot of the Enterprise there.
Yeah, it's a very cool looking disruptor fire from the Klingon ship. So not just straight green laser beams, but they have some really cool ripple effects going on. So good job to the remastered crew for that disruptor fire. Very, very cool.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and here comes the big reveal of the episode. We're going to get the big answer to the big question. What do the Klingons want in this system? And the unsurprising answer, dilithium crystals, which Elaan says are common stones, to Kirk and Spock's surprise.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so the necklace that she's wearing turns out to be none other than unrefined fragments of dilithium crystal, which is a blessing because our dilithium crystals in the Enterprise have been fried, and we need some. So now we're going to take the genius of Spock and Scotty and figure out a way to hook up these crystal fragments to repower the ship. And we'll see some very cool space battle prowess from Kirk here in a little bit.
Mm-hmm. So, but here's a little bit of evidence to support my theory.
Okay.
He asks if they can have the necklace to get the ship, back on track. Mm-hmm. And she's already come to the bridge prepared to die alongside him.
Or so she says.
But then says, if it will help, you can take my necklace.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I think if it was a complete ruse and she was a savage race that really their main intent was to sort of cause a conflict, she would have been like, nah, let's take this ride and I'll see you in hell.
She doesn't want to die. Come on. Come on. That's not crippling one ship and causing a one-sided conflict is not a way to prove definitively one way or another who's the better warrior race. So now she's given Kirk the key to even the score, to even the odds.
But that was information that she didn't have. So when they disabled the ship, what was their end game?
This was their end game.
No, but they didn't know that her necklace was going to give them the resources that they needed.
They didn't? I don't know, man.
Wow, you're kidding.
They didn't? I don't know. He seemed to know all about the her guys seemed to know all about the technology there, and he knew all about, where to plant his little device to destroy the crystal and all that stuff. I think I think they had this well planned out. I think that, hey, Chekhov's wearing a wig, by the way. I think they had this well planned out, man.
Do you think she could have been oblivious to that? Somebody higher up could have been like, she'll wear this necklace and we're going to assume that, the intelligence on board the Enterprise will figure out.
Could be. I'm telling you, they knew ahead of time what the Federation and the Klingons want. They knew they wanted those crystals. They can't be that dumb. Because the Klingons would just show up and say, give me your crystals. I mean, they wouldn't negotiate for anything. They would know exactly why they were there. So they have previous experience with them. So I'm telling you, they knew all about it.
And that's another thing I really sort of love about episodes like this one, is where you can have a story presented and two different people have two very different outlooks on what's playing out on screen.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fun. It makes it a little more interesting. Oh, and by the way, the triumphant return of photon torpedoes here. It's been a long time since we've seen them. Mm-hmm. I keep asking where they are. Well, finally, we're going to get them again.
There's your answer.
Yeah, we're going to fire a few photon torpedoes. But yeah, back to your point, I agree. This makes the episode more fun for me because we can kind of talk back and forth about what our interpretations are, and not take it at face value, either one of us. But this is some great space battle tactics by Kirk. I love how he's doing the whole play possum thing again. Lure the Klingons in close. Don't let them outmaneuver the photon torpedoes. Wait till they're right on top of you and kick their butts.
Yeah.
So, a lot of really great, intense Shatner and Takei scenes in this, with the two of them standing at the console there. Really, really great. Some cool space battle scenes too, by the way.
Yeah.
Effects.
Yeah. It's reminiscent of Wrath of Khan for me.
Yeah, there you go.
The maneuvering that's going on here. They're really making an effort to explain how a space battle might actually happen.
Yeah.
As opposed to two ships just going pew pew,
Yeah, exactly. You see the actual maneuvering, and I love that you get the affirmation from Spock, or the confirmation rather, that they've hit certain areas of the Klingon ship, and certain systems have been deactivated, and certain shields have been damaged. I love that they can get that information from just looking in that little hole on the console. Mm-hmm. So great stuff. And here's where you can see the disappointment in her face that Kirk didn't finish off the Klingons and just kind of let them go. Yeah. So I think she wanted a resolution to the conflict. Mm-hmm. She wanted a definitive winner. Yeah. And she did not get it. So, and I love the wrap up at the end of this. Not this part where he says goodbye to Elaan, but the end with Spock talking about Kirk being infected by the Enterprise long before Elaan came along. Mm-hmm. Fantastic stuff. That I love the references to how attached Kirk is to the ship.
Yeah, and I don't want to tip my hand, but I'm going to tip my hand here in terms of, the essential nature of this episode is definitely affected by that for me.
Interesting. I consider your hand tipped.
But I also think, this scene is really powerful. It's a powerful Kirk moment. And, she's asking if he's going to beam down for the ceremony. And, he says he won't and he's staying behind. And you see a level of loss there, or at least I see a level of loss in his eyes and pain.
I think he's just really upset about losing all those placemats.
But even her reaction as she, beams down, seems like genuine emotion.
I think she's keeping up appearances, man.
Wow, I'm very curious what listeners think. I know every Sunday I look forward to Matt chiming in and friend of the show Steve chiming in. So hopefully they both give us their take on what was really going down between Kirk and Elaan in this episode.
Yeah, bring it on. So.
And I think also Mike stops by a lot too.
Well, I was going to mention Mike. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll all have something to say about that. We're calling you guys out.
Yeah. No, I mean, it really is a highlight of my Sunday to get that notification saying, somebody's replied to a photo on the Tricorder Transmissions page.
Yep, we always get them. So and thank you guys for doing that. We always love to get those.
Yeah, and if you want to interact with us, please do. As we just mentioned, we have the Facebook page, which was facebook.com/ the Tricorder Transmissions.
Yeah.
Yeah. We also have TTT_pod on Twitter. And we have the normal website, the tricordertransmissions.com.
Yeah.
And all of that will link back. We'll all get you basically to the same spot, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So very cool. I guess we'll go into the essential nature of this episode. And since I sort of already tipped my hand, I'm going to say I think this is an essential episode. And I understand my argument might be weak. And I might sort of be, being manipulated by the fact that this is, in my opinion, one of the stronger episode 3 or season 3 episodes. But I feel that there's too much going on here character-wise for Kirk for this not to be essential. And I think really establishing that throughout the series, including the movies, looking forward, that the Enterprise is something that means a lot to Kirk. And it's, a relationship that he has, as much as you can call it that, that really defines who he is. And it's not something that he does. It's being captain of the Enterprise isn't his job. It's really his reason for being. And the way Spock drives that home, where any other person would have been crippled by this, the tears of this alien race, Kirk's love for another woman, for lack of a better word, cures him. So for that reason, I'm marking this essential. And like I said, I might be blinded by the tears of the strongness of this episode in relation to season 3.
All right. Well, that sounds like a pretty good take. Let's see. Well, good space combat for me. Like the remastered space combat. Unfortunately, no recurring new alien races, and we get an appearance by the Klingons, but no identified recurring Klingon character. So nothing really to take away there. I mean, there are some good aspects to the episode, like you said, but unfortunately, with my essential criteria, there's nothing that I can give a nod to or flag as essential in this episode.
Fair enough.
All right. And I guess that about wraps it up for Elaan of Troyius. So tune in next Sunday for our regularly scheduled commentary. But on Wednesday, we will be launching yet another episode of What Are Little Songs Made Of? With 5-year mission. So tune into that if you're into that kind of stuff. And even if you're on the fence and if you've never listened to 5-year mission before, tune in anyway and listen into what they had to say. And then maybe you'll be converted into a fan.
Definitely.
Yeah. So, all right. Thanks for listening, everybody. And we'll see you again very soon.
Star Trek gives another nod to Shakespeare in Elaan of Troyius. It's Star Trek's version of the classic drama, The Taming of the Shrew. Here, Kirk falls under the spell of a beautiful princess, played by actress France Nguyen. He gets to play the role of an intergalactic Petruchio. The rumor behind this episode was that it was written in direct response to network research. They found that women were lukewarm to stories set in space, so a romantic twist was added to lure prospective female viewers. Now, Elaan of Troyius. In this episode, we get a glimpse of Uhura's cabin for the very first time. We see her individual home decorating style, complete with zebra skin, bedspread, African art, and masks, proud statements of her Swahili heritage. And although we've spoken about and looked at a nebulous shape in previous episodes, viewers actually got to see the Klingon battle cruiser for the first time in Elaan of Troyius. Elaan of Troyius sounds a good bit like Helen of Troy, but instead of the face that no man can resist, it's the tears that have a spellbinding effect on those who come into contact with them. Kirk was one of the few who lived to tell of his seduction, one of the more pleasant tribulations he survives.